Okay, thanks for joining us today. We're doing our destination series. This is number 10 of our destination series, and we have been all over the world. We've done everything from our calendar from Patagonia through Nepal and Kilimanjaro. Last weekend we did Iceland, and today we're doing our safari options. And we have many options for safari, and I'm going to go over the different ones. I did not bring a special guest in for this one today because I kind of wanted to go over the different safari options and the different national parks. And I figured that it would be a little better if I just went through it myself this time. And also Raymond, my operations manager in Tanzania, I think would be a little upset if I had him get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to join us here today. So I'm going to go through that. I'm going to share my screen. So we are going to go to Tanzania, East Africa on our safaris where the X marks. And we're going to kind of be right along the equator line. Just like our Kilimanjaro climbs, we're going to be right along the equator line. So if you look here at the lines of latitude, we have the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, and then right in the middle here where it says Africa, just below the equator. Kilimanjaro lies about 200 miles south of the equator, and that's going to be generally the area outside and around Kilimanjaro. Each year, 1.5 million people visit Tanzania on tourist visas, and about 25,000 people climb Kilimanjaro each year. So the majority of people actually go to Tanzania to do wildlife safaris. And it's absolutely fantastic. It's one of the premier places in Africa to do wildlife safaris. To get there, you would most likely connect through Amsterdam and Europe, and then fly directly from Amsterdam into Kilimanjaro International Airport. Code is JRO. And there are some other options, but that's the most direct and convenient route. There's a KLM flight that comes into JRO once every night. So we land there, and we're basically right by the base area of Kilimanjaro, where we start our Kilimanjaro climbs in East Africa. You can see here, just south of Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, off to the west, and right here on the border is where on this photo, you see Kilimanjaro right on the border of Kenya. And then we have a number of other things that we do. Zanzibar Island is out here on the Indian Ocean. And after we land kind of right between Arusha here at Kilimanjaro International Airport, and then there's close by Arusha National Park, the Tirangiri National Park, Lake Manyara National Park, the Ngoro Conservation Area, and the Serengeti National Park. So we're going to go over all those different options, different amounts of days, because we do offer different trip options depending on the amount of time that people want to spend on safari. Along with that, this is our map, and you can see a few of the other places: the Kilimanjaro Kids Community, the Makiyuni Primary School, the Women's Empowerment Group. These are all our human outreach project programs that are running over there in Tanzania. We have a lot going on in Tanzania. So during our safaris, a lot of times we'll have plenty of time to stop by these sites and do simple visit site tours. And it really is nice because it connects you with a different side than just tourism. It connects you with the real local people and the real local happenings there in Tanzania and what we're involved with in giving back to the communities where we visit. So for starters, a lot of our groups go over to climb Kilimanjaro. And when they do, I would say that most groups over the years go on a safari after their Kilimanjaro climb. So we're going to go over a couple options that they do after their climb, and they can do the longer options too. Our 4-day safari is the most popular after Kilimanjaro, and sometimes people will come in a day early and do a 1-day safari in a close by park, um, just to arrive the day before the group comes in. So typically for a Kilimanjaro group, we have our celebration dinner after we come off the mountain, and then we have the evening, and then the next morning, the groups are going to leave from over here. If you can see my pointer, Arusha is kind of where we're based out of and where we're staying. So they're going to make their way out, and usually on a 4-day safari, they're going to go either to the Tarangire National Park or Lake Manyara. We usually choose one or the other because the animals migrate different times of the year from one park to the other. So we're going to go to where the animals are most prominent when you are there on your safari on a 4-day after Kili. And then you would make your way up into the Ngoro Conservation Area. And then on the option to um, just do the regular wildlife safari, you would then drive back to Arusha. We do have another 4-day option, which goes to Lake Manyara or Tarangire. Then it goes into the crater, and then it spends 2 days up in the Serengeti National Park, and then it flies back to Arusha. You would fly back in about an hour on the last day. So you go twice as far and you see the Serengeti for 2 days, and then you just return by a charter flight, while the drivers drive back for 2 days. And that just helps give people a little bit more safari experience and utilize their time more wisely than driving all the way out and driving back. I'll go over the history of safaris. Safaris started with the trade routes, really primarily trading. Gold, spices were a very big trade in the early days, 17, 1800s, and then also ivory from elephants. So they started primarily from trade routes, and the Swahili word safari, it's a Swahili word, means journey. So basically, it was men on a long journey, and that's where safari comes from. It then evolved because of the discovery of all of the wildlife. Wild animals were there. In the old days, more of a hunting safari, where men went on big game hunts and hunted wild animals. They are still doing hunting safaris, but all of the national parks that we visit, hunting is prohibited. So if there are people that you hear about that go on big game safaris where they hunt, they usually are doing that between the national parks, and it is very expensive. It's not really my cup of tea, but it's something that was done in the olden days and is still going on, I guess, in a lesser amount than then. Even people here like President Roosevelt, going over to East Africa to do wild game safaris. It then evolved into wildlife safaris where people just wanted to see the animals as well, and not just hunting safaris, and then photographic safaris and different kind of groups that were going into observe animals and learn about the different animals and things like that. So it's come a long way for us. What we do is primarily a wildlife safari. And a wildlife safari, along with just taking great photographs, I think it's really fun for people to learn a great deal while we're on there. I think that's one of the big surprises for people, is how much they actually learn about the animals and how they act and how they hunt, and what animals eat what, and what animals eat grasses, and what animals are predators and everything else, but to the next level, up close and as you observe them. So again, we have multiple safari options. So a 1-day safari, that doesn't sound like much. That's really just for somebody who comes into Kilimanjaro and arrives a day early and goes to Arusha National Park. There's a park very close to where we stay. It's a smaller park. You're not going to see as much there. Some elephants, some zebra, some giraffe, some monkeys, some things like that. You're not going to see all of the big animals. On a 4-day safari after a Kilimanjaro climb, you have the option to do the standard safari that drives out and drives back, or the Serengeti safari. Then you're going to be able to see much more. Most of our groups after Kili do a 4-day safari. I think the Serengeti safari is the most popular because of the fact that they get to spend 2 days in the famous Serengeti Park. Then there's the 6-day safari. 6-day safari is a really nice size safari, or epic safari. And that's going to see all of the parks, some of the tribes that we'll go over. These are often done in nice combination: a 4-day safari with a 4-day Zanzibar Island if you weren't climbing Kilimanjaro, a 6-day safari with a 6-day Zanzibar Island, beautiful, white sand beaches out there, which would be 10 days in country. So you can do some really nice combinations to go on safari and then go to the islands and the beach and have a really nice final out there. And then the full-on 10-day safari, which I see a lot of families and different groups and things like that go on to really see the animals and all of the different parks and see them very well. Just like all of our trips, we're going to stay in beautiful lodges. Night arrival, beautiful lodge right near the airport, about 20 minutes away. Spend the night. The next day, meet your guides, do a briefing, and then embark on your safari in the schedule. On safaris, breakfast, lunch, dinner, everything is included. We stay in these beautiful lodges. There's usually evening entertainment before dinner. Then the dinner is a multi-course meal. We stay right in the national parks. We are very selective about the lodges that we choose. And you can see in the upper right corner that stone lodge that sits right on the rim of the Ngorongoro crater. To the left, you have two of the tented camps. I would say they're luxury tented camps. They're almost permanent structures with large canvas tent and beautiful bedroom in there, bathroom, and all the comforts. They're very beautiful and in beautiful areas. So the lodging is really important. We're out on the trail and looking around all day and having these big days of exploration. So being able to go and retreat at the end of the day to a really nice secluded lodge is a really great experience. We use Land Cruisers on all of our safaris. You can see lower right, the extended cab Land Cruisers. In the back here, there's 6 bucket seats, all window seats with the sliding windows. We also have the pop top, so everybody can stand up and view the wildlife, like in the picture on the left, up close, lean over. It's kind of like what I think about as like we're in a mobile cage. We're safe from the animals. They're in the wild. And on board, there's a cooler, electric cooler box for cold beverages. We oftentimes pack a picnic lunch. There's charging capabilities on board for phones and cameras, and they're very comfortable as we make our way around. So our vehicles are very important for the comfort of our guests. And if you look on the upper right-hand side here, it gives us a very close encounters. Here we're among a number of lions, just a few feet off the back of the vehicle, and great photographs, great observation, and really nice to be able to see the animals that way. So these are our Land Cruisers. That's what we're going to spend our time in as we move around. When we move from lodge to lodge, our bags just go behind the back set of seats and get all tucked away, and we have what we need for the day in the vehicle. And we make stops. We stop at bathrooms. We stop for lunch. We kind of go to different areas along the way. Another question that we get often is, how old do have people, what's the good ages for people on safari? I would say really any age. And that's because you learn so much. So on the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you see a family after a Kilimanjaro climb, a father with his 3 kids, on a Serengeti safari, and they're just really capping off their experience together and learning a lot there. On the lower left, you see three young boys with their grandparents, and this was a really fun trip. I actually was on this trip. It was a 10-day safari, and every night I can remember the grandma around the dinner table, and grandpa there talking about what they saw all day and what they learned. And it's a really fun experience with kids because they learn so much about the ecosystems and the animals. And I would say that's a great testament to our drivers. Our drivers, John and Comfort, are our main drivers. We have other drivers as well. They're trained at the African Wildlife College. They have a tremendous amount of knowledge that they love to share with our groups. They always have dinner with us at night, so we can continue the conversations about the day and what they learned and saw. And they're a really big part of the safari experience. Raymond and I in the upper center there, we've crafted a number of different safari options. And having myself been on countless safaris, I think, Ray and I have really taken time to try to put together the best itineraries based on what we see our group enjoy, driving distances, days out, the lodging we select, and everything else. You can see in the lower right us stopping in the midday with a blanket on the roof and having a tea and cookie break and that kind of thing. So they're really nice. They're really fun days. And on safaris, people often think of the African Big Five, and the Big Five is the rhinoceros, the African Cape buffalo, on the right lower corner, the leopard, the lion, and the African elephant. And these were named the Big Five in the early days because they were the hardest to hunt. And the name really kind of rolls over into the fact that they're also the hardest to see. So on a safari, it's definitely very unique. In the dozens and dozens of times that I've done safaris for 14 years now, every experience is always different. So a little bit of patience is very important. A little bit of knowing that you're going to have different types of encounters. So it takes a while to get all those great pictures and takes a while to have all those great encounters. We also spend time visiting some of the tribes. This is the Bushman tribe. They're a nomadic tribe of hunters and gatherers. We often hunt with them in the morning. We see how they live, a very nomadic, simple life. The Datoga tribe, another very unique tribe that we go to. And I like these more remote and special tribes that we visit. They do less of the production when you come in, but you see a little bit more of their everyday life, less of the song and dance and put on the show for the tourists, more of just really how they're living out there in these remote areas. And that's why we like to visit them. So as we make our way, we're going to, start out with one of these early game parks. We're going to spend some time in the Ngoro Conservation Area. So in this picture, you can see that we have the Tarangire National Park on the lower right. We have Lake Minyara National Park on the left. And the reason that we choose to make a decision at this intersection on where we're going to go out of these two parks is really based on the time of year. Once this lake starts to really dry up, the Tarangire River is going to attract the animals, and they're going to migrate from Lake Minyara over to Tarangire, so we would want to be there. Early in the season, when there's a lot of water throughout both, the vegetation in the Tarangire National Park is going to be quite high. It makes it harder to see the animals, so we'll go to Lake Minyara. So these are some of the small decisions that we're going to make to give people the best experience as they go. A couple elephants, young elephants wrapped up in the trunks, monkeys, flamingos flying through the air, and lower right, the rare sightings of hippopotamus out of the water during the day. The hippopotamus have a very sensitive skin, and the sun definitely affects that. So they spend most of their days in the water. And we go to the hippo pools. And then in the evening, night, early mornings, they roam the land eating the grass, which they eat quite a lot of throughout the whole night. And then during the sun of the day, they go back into the hippo pools. We're going to make our way up to the Ngoro Conservation Area. And then when we do, this is just south. If you see my pointer, this whole area is just south of the Serengeti National Park. And you see this large crater here in the middle. And this is a conservation area. And we'll go over that in a minute. But we go down into that large crater. The reason it's a conservation area is because the Maasai tribe lives here. And the Maasai tribe, they don't allow people to live inside of the national parks. So they made this a conservation area. It used to be part of the Serengeti. They've split it off to let them, like they have for many, many years, decades, and live in the conservation area. So even though there's lions and all kinds of predator type animals there, the Maasai actually are very accustomed to living amongst the wildlife, and they graze their cows throughout the lands there and everything else. It is incredible to see a group of Maasai out there in the conservation area with a big herd of cattle, and know that there's lions all about and everything else. But we're going to do our day in the conservation area down here in the Ngoro crater. The Ngoro crater measures 10 miles by 12 miles across. It's about 102 square miles down in there. And it's a large crater rim that we see on the horizon line all around here. So here's where the mountain has grown up while it was erupting. And then it basically, I guess you could say, popped. And when it did, it made this large crater. And when it did make the large crater, it's really a caldera. And the difference between a crater and a caldera is that the caldera is flat in the center of the cone, where a crater is going to be coned out. So with that flat landscape is all of the vegetation, all of the ecosystems and water, and basically food and water that attract all of the wildlife. This has one of the highest concentration of animals anywhere on the planet. And it has to do with food and water. It's a beautiful crater, caldera. And when you look around, you can see that crater rim. It's unbroken. You can see that in 360 degrees over this 10 by 12 mile range. We spend the day down in there doing a full day game drive and seeing lots of different wildlife down in there. So as we're down in there in our safari vehicle, the roof is popped. People can take great photographs, have a number of different great encounters, a lot of bird life, a lot of different wildlife. This is one of the places where we can see large prides of elephants, and as well on the safaris, the few places that we're going to see the rhinoceros. So this is one of the big five, and down in the crater is where we want to see the rhinoceros so we can see the big five during our journey. It's where they are. There's about 25 rhinoceros down there, pretty low amount. They are very sensitive to weather. They don't like the wind. They don't like cloudy days. They kind of hunker down. They're, for such a prehistoric beast, they are a pretty sensitive animal. But you can have some great close encounters, and it's really a matter of being able to spend the time and be patient. You might see one far, far in the distance, and then waiting for it to make its way in your direction and heading off to get in a good position to get a photo like this. And that goes the same for lions. I mean, we see a lot of lions, but the interesting thing about the lions is lower right-hand corner, 2 lions laying down. And, you know, you can come upon a couple lions like this, And if they had just eaten, they can lie down like this for like 2 days or more. So to have those great encounters in different areas, you're going to definitely want to make sure that we put the time in to see lions roaming around in the trees, lower right, to have very close encounters, to have lions up and active is another part of the safari experience. You're really not knowing what you're going to get. If you want to see this cheetah, it might take some time, but with your 4, 6, or 10-day options, you're going to have the best chance to see some really great encounters as you roam around. And our drivers are great about really kind of figuring things out, seeing things in the distance that you would have no idea are there, and then explaining every detail about them. But another great cheetah experience here, and a couple cheetah together coming right at the Jeep. These are all my photos from over the years, and they're definitely hard to get. A good camera, a camera with a telephoto lens is good, probably a little better than just a camera phone. If you're going on an extended safari, having a little bit more of a long lens, being able to stabilize yourself on the edge of the Jeep is another good thing, and being able to get some of these great shots. So we're going to make our way up into the Serengeti on our Serengeti 4-day, 6-day, or 10-day safari options. And the Serengeti is quite large. So if we've been down in the crater here and Lake Manyara and Serengeti, now the Serengeti is this large area up in here. It means the endless plains. And we're going to explore the western corridor here and the eastern corridor, stay up in this middle area, explore this whole way in along the way, and have a lot of great other experiences. So you can see the crowned cranes on the upper left. You can see a leopard in the tree on the lower left. Upper left is the crowned cranes. Us out on safari in the comfort of our vehicles on the upper right there amongst the zebra. And then what we would call a tower of giraffe. So you would have a pride of lions in a group. You would have a troop of monkeys, and you would have a tower of giraffe. And we oftentimes do see giraffe together. We sometimes see them by themselves. We can identify the difference between male and female by the two little horns up on their head. And it's really a great experience. So you can see some gazelle here on the upper left, a great encounter with an elephant on the lower right, and whether it's with the binoculars or the telephoto lens on your camera, being able to see some really close encounters. And you would be totally surprised at how close we actually do get in certain situations, and how patient you have to be to get in other situations with the different animals. So as we continue through the Serengeti, we're going to have we have a wildebeest here in the upper left with all of the pink flamingos out there. A crocodile on the banks of the river in the Serengeti on the right, and a hippopotamus stretching out in the center, a hyena in the lower left. And a lot of people want to know, what the best time of year for safari is. Really, safari is going to be absolutely fine any time of the year that you have time to go. And the one thing that people think about is the Great Migration. And the Great Migration constantly goes on, where 2.5 million wildebeest make this rotation and calf about 500,000 young wildebeest calves along the way. And the reason that is probably best, if that's what you want to see, between January and March, February is a prime month, is because that is the time when they're down in the south here, and we are driving from the Ngoro Conservation Area up to the Serengeti. So we drive right through where they are during that period of great migration in February month, and January, February, March. I would say that is a great thing. I would say that you will see enormous amounts of wildebeest and all the other animals no matter what month you go, and they all have a little bit, some pros and cons. When you go later in the dry season, it's going to be more dusty. When you go early after the wet season, there's going to be more vegetation and greenery that's going to be maybe make seeing some animals more difficult in certain situations. But a lot of people ask when the best time of year. I like to think the best time of year is when you go. So that's really important. Some lions in the Serengeti, nice big pride of lions. We've seen up to times when there's been 20 lions in a huge pride, and it's just amazing to see them all lounging around or maybe on a hunt, different things. Hippos in the hippo pool during the day, and a lot of great sunrises and a lot of great sunsets. This is a photo I took from our lodge uh, deep in the Serengeti, and I had taken a time lapse and just watched the sun go down through the sky like this fiery ball for, you know, an hour or so. And it was just amazing as it tucked over the horizon line. On our 4-day Serengeti and 6-day safaris, we're often going to return back to Arusha with a small charter flight. That would be a plane like this, holds about 14 people, 12 people right in there. And it's about an hour flight. And that's why after Achille climb, the 4-day Serengeti safari puts you way out there, but then your return is within 1 hour. So that's kind of nice. On a 10-day safari, we oftentimes loop through the Serengeti and make our way back, actually not needing to do a flight and seeing more game drives on the way back as opposed to just trying to drive straight back. We also have options to do balloon safaris, and these are really neat. We've done these in the Tarangire National Park and the Serengeti National Park, and this often embarks right in the very early hours when they do balloon flying, and that's just due to the temperatures changing and the air current. And you pretty much head out from a lot of times in the Tarangire National Park. We stay at a balloon camp, beautiful tented camp. And then in the morning, we go in the dark while they're filling up all the balloons. And then you fly for an hour or so over the Tarangire National Park, seeing all the wildlife from the balloon. And then we land near the Tarangire River, and they do a champagne breakfast on the banks of the river with all the breakfast fixings and a really nice layout there. And then after that, we embark on the rest of our safari day. But hot air balloon ride is pretty fun. As I said, in Tanzania, we have a number of human outreach project programs. Near Kili, we have a 4-acre piece of land that we've over since 2009 constructed a amazing and beautiful orphanage on with multiple buildings and wonderful kids and a great staff. We often do a site tour there. In the upper right, you see our Makiuni school lunch program, where we're able to feed over 1,000 kids lunch every single day, when before we started that a few years back, they did not have a lunchtime meal. And then we have a women's group, and we oftentimes do small site tours and just stop and sees kind of thing, little tours along the way during the safari. If anybody does want to add a day or add a little bit more extended experience to spend time with these programs, we welcome that as well. So like all of our trips, we are going to get you a complete trip detail. No matter what option you choose, it's going to have your packing list on there. It's going to talk all about your lodging, your visas, your communications available while you're out there, and everything you need to know to go on your trip. And then I would say, lastly, the option to go to Zanzibar Island is another good option. We have many people do this after Kili or after safaris, and you can do this in conjunction very easily with a 4 or 6-day safari, or if you want to go for away for quite a long time, 10-day safari. Typically, Zanzibar Island is a 4-day add-on. So 3 nights, 4 days from the Arusha airport. It's just about an hour flight. You land right on Zanzibar Island, and then you spend a couple days on your own at a beautiful beach resort and have some great meals and some great beach times. There's a number of activities you can do, from sailing and scuba diving and just exploring Stone Town at the end, 7th century city that's really unique and neat to see. And Zanzibar is a nice add-on to a lot of our stuff. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I am going to answer any questions if we have them. Anybody have any questions? I'm happy to answer any questions on our safari options. Okay, it doesn't look like I have any questions today. If any questions do come up, always here to answer them. I hope I won't be here long. I'm looking forward to get back out to it with guiding. I've got groups coming up. I'm going to be doing a couple trips for our Human Outreach Project programs. And then I should start guiding by June in southern Utah. And then I'll be going over to Tanzania for Kilimanjaro climb. I do have a question here. It says, how long is the Mount Kilimanjaro trip? So the Mount Kilimanjaro trip is 9 days. And the reason it's 9 days is we land usually in the evening and spend the night. We do a welcome reception, spend the night. Then the first day, like whenever we fly that far, we like to do a cultural tour day. And that starts with our orientation briefing about the mountain. And then we go out and we do a tour through some local villages. We tour a coffee plantation and really see some of the local life in the area. Then the afternoon, we come back and do a gear check. And then we head up on the mountain the next morning for 7 days. And then you would come down and spend the night in the lodge. And then after you spend the night in the lodge, you would have breakfast the next morning, and you would embark on your add-on adventure, whether it's Zanzibar Island or any option of the safaris. If you weren't, you would just head home at the end. That looks like about all the questions I have right now. And like I said, I am around, and the office staff is always here to help answer questions. And thank you for joining me. I think that's it. Yep. Thank you for joining me. And we'll see you next week for our next destination series. As always, these come out on Friday. So if you missed Iceland or Patagonia or Everest Base Camp or any of the other options, they come out on Friday. So if you go to our YouTube channel, type in Worldwide Trekking in the search bar, our channel will come right up, and they'll all be right there under videos. So thanks for joining us today. And it does look, could you talk about the airport arrival? Do you request that clients arrive via KLM? Okay, so I have another question. Airport arrival, I don't, it says you can talk about the arrival. Do we request that clients arrive on the KLM? It's not necessary. I think it's a very convenient option from the United States, because when you fly to Amsterdam with a short amount of time, you can connect and go directly on the KLM, and that's a direct flight into Kilimanjaro. There are other options on Qatar Airlines. There's also other options to fly, say, through Nairobi, Kenya. But then you might add an extra leg to your trip. But we will pick you up at the airport anytime you arrive. Over the years, until this last year, there was increasing amounts of flights coming into Kilimanjaro Airport, but it's not a huge hub of an airport. It's kind of just an airport that people land at to go on safari or go to Kilimanjaro. So we can assist you with someone to help with flight arrangements through the office here if you contact us. And we will pick you up anytime you land in Tanzania for your trip on the arrival day. And when you sign up, we'll make all those arrangements and expect you at the airport when you arrive. So, okay. That looks like all the questions. Again, thanks so much. Wait, maybe I got one more. I do have one more. All right, I got Gina Adams. Great picks. Highly recommend this trip. Thanks, Gina, and great to see you. And thanks everybody for joining us. And we'll see you next week on our destination series.